the last lecture, I introduced Ampere's law. The full advantage of Ampere's law can be derived if we have some symmetry in the system, and using that symmetry we found the magnetic field due to a straight long current and straight long cylindrical conductor. We will continue in this lecture with Ampere's law for some time, and then we shall find the fields due to the devices like solenoid and toroid. So, as another example of the application of Ampere's law, let us take now a long cylinder which is hollow, that is, it has certain thickness, there is an inner radius and there is outer radius, it is hollow. Inner radius is A and the outer radius is B, as I have shown here. And so, what do we do? Again the current is constantly spread over this cross section. So, once again I take a circle of radius r which is inside the conductor, that is r is greater than A, and find the current in the cross section drawn by radius A, and I shall use that. But let us first take a simple case. We draw a Ampere's circle inside the conductor, that is, the radius of that is less than A inside the conductor, and since there are no currents inside, the magnetic field there must be 0. For r 1 less than A, 2 pi r 1 times B is 0, therefore, B is 0. Now, I choose the circle of radius r inside the conductor, and first of all the current density would be total current divided by the area of cross section, which is pi into B square minus A square. So, therefore, the current density is J equal to I by pi into B square minus A square, and therefore, the current inside this circle of radius r is simply pi r square minus A square, that is the area, into J, the current density, and that is equal to the expression which we shall use. This is the expression, and because of symmetry the field must be constant. Therefore, 2 pi r times B in the shell, because the radius is in the shell, that is equal to mu 0 times I into J, the current density which we used earlier. So, we get 2 pi r times B shell is equal to mu 0 into I threading this circle r or within this circle r, which if we use that expression gives us mu 0 into pi r squared minus A squared by pi B squared minus A squared into I. So, therefore, this pi gets cancelled and the magnetic field inside the shell, that is, for radii between A and B, the field is mu 0 times r squared minus A squared by 2 pi r into B squared minus A squared into I. Now, let us take a loop which is outside the cylinder, r greater than B, this outer circle of radius r, and r is greater than the outer radius of the cylinder. Within this circle, the whole current I is included, and therefore, we simply have 2 pi r times B equal to mu 0 I, or B equal to mu 0 I by 2 pi r. And we can now see that this expression mu 0 I by 2 pi r gives us at the surface the same field as the expression we found for the shell. This is easy to verify and you can do it. For the field outside this conductor, we take the Amperian loop of radius r, small r, which is greater than the radius, outer radius B of the cylinder, and this circle includes all the current which is there in the conductor, the whole of this current, and therefore, and because of symmetry, magnetic field must be constant and along the loop. Therefore, the integral B dot dl is simply 2 pi r times B, and that is equal to mu 0 I, because this loop includes the whole current, and therefore, we get B equal to mu 0 I by 2 pi r. So, that is the magnetic field outside the conductor, and you can check that at r equal to B, this capital R equal to B, you get the same result. This is important because the field outside and field inside, they must match at the surface. There cannot be any discontinuity. Also, the field inside here at radius a must also become 0, because inside there is no field. So, there at each point there must be a continuity. You cannot have discontinuous magnetic fields. And here I have sketched the magnetic field inside the hollow, then in the shell, then outside. Outside it varies as 1 by r, within the shell it varies as this, and in the hollow the field is 0. Again I repeat the same thing, but you know that how to find the direction of the magnetic field given the direction of the current, or given the direction of the loop, how to find the direction of the current. This is again given by the right hand thumb rule. For a current in the form of a circular loop, the magnetic field can be found by considering the loop to be made of infinite number of small segments. That is, I break this circular loop into sections, infinitely small sections of the current, and each is a straight section. Therefore, I have found the magnetic field due to a straight current. Therefore, I apply that result. So, this is a loop. I take two diametrically opposite segments shown in red here, and these are straight, and therefore, the loops are formed around this, and you can see that what happens because of this diametrically opposite, the field at the center of the loop is in this direction, is perpendicular to the plane of the loop. That is important thing to remember. And now we can find the magnitude of this field also. Not only is it true of these two, this is true of all diametrically opposite elements. They all reinforce the fact that the magnetic field at the center is perpendicular to the plane of the loop. And in fact, the loop acts just like a bar magnet or a short bar magnet or a dipole, magnetic dipole. And how to find the poles we shall see in a moment. But a current loop acts like a very short bar magnet or a dipole, magnetic dipole. We shall continue from this, that each loop represents a small magnet, and the lines or field lines are perpendicular to the plane of the loop. So, let us now take a magnetic field due to a solenoid. Solenoid consists of several loops carrying the current, and if we use this fact that there are now several loops one after the other and draw the lines of force due to each of these loops, then what happens? We find that the magnetic field at the center is reinforced. For all loops it gets added, whereas in the periphery, this, for example, the loop, the magnetic field is going downwards, here it is going upwards. So, they cancel. Here it is going again downwards, here it is going upwards, they cancel. So, at each place they are cancelling, only the magnetic field at the center is being reinforced, and at the periphery the field is actually very weak. So, the field due to a solenoid is along the axis of the solenoid, along the axis of the solenoid. The above argument shows that the magnetic field of a solenoid having several closely packed turns will be predominantly along the axis of the coil. The field outside the solenoid will be very weak, as I shown here. These are the loops, these will go outside and they are very weak. The field inside, perpendicular to the plane of the solenoid or along the axis of the solenoid, is very strong. If we take an infinite solenoid, actually such a solenoid is called an ideal solenoid. If we take an infinite solenoid, then infinitely long solenoid has translational and rotational symmetry. Translation, that I can deal with here, here, here without making any difference, because this is infinitely long, and also circular, because all these loops are circular. Therefore, it has both circular symmetry as well as the translational symmetry. And all this shows that the field lines must be, reinforces the fact that field lines must be along the axis. I have taken a very long solenoid here, and you can see the field lines at the periphery, that is near the edges, is very weak. it will make a loop here, but the field along the center is very strong, it is reinforced. So, for an expression we take an ideally solenoid, neglect, that means we neglect the effects at the edges, and this can be done as long as the length is much larger than the diameter of the solenoid. We shall assume that, and then we draw an Amperian loop. This side has length h, this side is of length AD and BC, and CD is of length h, and this is solenoid. I am showing the loops, and each loop carries current I, and we have already seen that the magnetic field must be along the axis. So, we take that structure, and now I take this loop and then I apply Ampere's law, and this applied to this loop, the Ampere's law says that B to A B dot dl plus C to B B dot dl plus C to D B dot dl plus D to A B dot dl, all that must be equal to the current inside this loop. And what is the current inside this loop? If there are n turns in the loop, then this must be equal to mu 0 into n into I. And now we shall evaluate these. It is simple. For B A the height is length is h, and for there is no current. So, therefore, the first one would be 0. For B C or C B and A D, the loop is perpendicular to the magnetic field. So, makes no contribution. The only contribution comes from C D, from C to D, B dot dl, and dl in that case is simply h. So, B dot h is equal to mu 0 n times I. That is what we have done here. B h is equal to mu 0 n times I, and therefore, B is mu 0 n I by h, and n by h is the number of turns per unit length. Therefore, B is equal to mu 0 small n times I, where small n now represents the number of turns per unit length. And you can see that because of this n is within my power, I can make n large or small, and therefore, I can adjust the field. In fact, solenoid is useful only because we can have fields of the strength we desire, and by making n as large as we need, we can make the field very strong. But there is a consideration, and that is that if I make n very large, the wire becomes very large, very long, and therefore, its resistance goes up. If its resistance goes up, then ohmic losses they go up, and also to make the current flow in this long loop with a large number of lines, large number of turns, I need a much greater voltage, and so on. So, the easier way is to use a core, of iron or a material like iron at the center of this solenoid. In that case, the magnetic field would be given by mu 0 times mu r times n times I, where mu r is the relative permeability of the core material. You see, you can start with B equal to mu times n I, where mu is the permeability of that material, and you can write this mu as mu by mu 0 into mu 0, and mu by mu 0 is the relative permeability. So, you get this expression, and mu r, the relative permeability for iron, for example, is more than 200. So, you can see that using such a core in the solenoid, we can make the magnetic field very strong. For fields stronger than even those achievable by iron core, special materials with high permeability have been developed. The core also concentrates the field lines and reduces non-uniformity of the field near the edges. This is very important. Usually, we neglect this effect. You see, if I put a core here, then the core, we shall learn later that ferromagnetic materials like iron, they attract the lines of force. So, the lines of force, they present a low resistance path for the lines, magnetic field lines, and therefore, they prefer to go through the core. So, since the lines of these field lines tend to go through the core, therefore, the field is concentrated, and in the axis of the solenoid. The direction of the field due to a solenoid is given by the familiar right hand rule, we shall apply here. If you are looking at a loop, say loop is like this and you are looking at the loop, then if the current in the loop is anti-clockwise, it is anti-clockwise, then the face which is towards me is the north pole, otherwise it is the south pole. So, if I look at a loop and the current in this loop is anti-clockwise, then I am looking the face of the loop towards me is a north pole and away from me is a south pole. You see here as I have shown by the eye where I look, as I look the current goes through this anti-clockwise, therefore, this is a north pole. If I look from this side, then it is a south pole. In any case, if it is a north pole, it has to be a south pole. We have found the magnetic field due to a solenoid. I want to repeat this. The important fact is that by the use of a suitable solenoid, we can get the magnetic field that we desire, and the magnetic field is concentrated near the axis of the solenoid, especially if there is a core of iron or material like iron. If you bend this solenoid, then it becomes a toroid. You see this solenoid here, these are the two things, then I connect them like this, make a circular thing, circular ring, and this then becomes a toroid. And because the field was near the axis of the solenoid, the field now is again along the axis of the toroid. The field is this, and then there are loops around this, and there are loops of current around this toroid. The field is along the axis of the toroid. The strongest field is along the axis of the toroid, and elsewhere it weakens, which I will see in a moment. So, to analyze this, we again take this structure. This is now a solenoid bent into a toroid, and these are the currents going in. You see, you have a loop like this, the current going in, the current coming out, the current going in, the current coming out. So, these crosses represent the currents going in, and the dots with circles represent the currents coming out. So, this is a flow of current in the toroid. So, to find the strength of the field, I take an Amperian loop within the toroid of radius capital R. Then what happens? Within this radius or within this circle of radius capital R, only the ingoing currents are included. Only the ingoing currents are included. The outgoing are not included. Therefore, once again, because of symmetry, the magnetic field must be along this loop. In fact, because it is a solenoid made into a toroid, it is always along the axis. So, it is along this, and the length or the when you integrate along the loop, then it is 2 pi capital R times the field strength along this circle, and that must be equal to mu 0 times the currents which are going in. So, 2 pi R B equal to mu 0 times n I, where n is the number of turns, and from this you get B is equal to mu 0 n I by 2 pi R, and n by 2 pi R is nothing, number of turns per unit length. Therefore, it is simply the same formula, mu 0 small n times I, where small n is the number of turns per unit length. And we note also that the magnetic field decreases as R, that is, from the center if I start, then its maximum it decreases with R, that is, as R increases from here to here, the magnetic field decreases, and it is strongest in along the axis. This expression, however, conceals the fact that the field inside the torus decreases with the increase of R. So, we must stick to the expression this. Instead of using this expression, it is much better to use this expression. To find the strength of the magnetic field outside the toroid, that is simple. Outside the toroid, you draw a circle of radius R, but this includes now the ingoing as well as outgoing currents, and therefore, the net current through this outside loop is 0. Therefore, the field outside the toroid will be 0. So, the net current through the loop is 0. Therefore, according to Ampere's law, B times whatever is equal to 0, therefore, B is equal to 0. Similar arguments show that inside the hollow of this ring there is no magnetic field. This we have already done in fact. Inside the hollow also there is no current, and therefore, the field there is also 0. So, in the hollow it is 0, it decreases at r and then it becomes 0 at the surface. That is the kind of field that the toroid has. Now, why is toroid so important? Scientists discovered that it is possible to reproduce in the laboratory the process of nuclear fusion of light nuclei. It is this process that is the source of energy in the sun and other stars. If it could be accomplished in the laboratory on the earth, we will have a source of clean energy, huge source of energy which is clean, and the best candidates so far that might react the light nuclei are deuterium and tritium, and if they react then we can get lot of energy, and this energy would be clean energy. Deuterium 1 proton 1 neutron, tritium 1 proton 2 neutrons, and they must react in a certain region of space, and they give rise to helium and a neutron and lot of energy. In one such reaction you get 17.6 mega electron volts. But what is the problem? The problem is why this has not been achieved so far. See, the nuclei must be heated to a temperature of about 10 to the power 8 degrees to make them overcome the mutual Coulomb barrier between them. You see, these are nuclei, and there is lot of electrical repulsion between them, and to overcome the repulsion we must make them with very fast, so that they can collide, overcoming the repulsion. For that they have to be heated to a temperature of 10 to the power 8 degrees K, and when they react like that it is called thermonuclear fusion. The heated nuclei, the plasma, they must be confined to a space, so that and given time to react, and the temperature is so high that if this plasma touches the walls, then the walls are destroyed. So, what is the solution? The solution is a toroid. So, we have a toroid which contains this plasma because of its magnetic field and gives time for the reactants to react and give us energy. So far, of course, we have not succeeded, but there is every hope that in future we shall have this clean source of energy. We have seen that a toroidal device can be a very suitable thing for confining plasma, so that deuterium and tritium can react, and most laboratories in the world which are working in this area, they have built toroids, and one of the most well known toroidal device is called a tokamak, and this tokamak is found in all major laboratories around the world, and they are trying to achieve the thermonuclear fusion using these tokamaks. And this picture I have taken from Wikipedia. This is a familiar device, toroidal device called a tokamak, which is found in many laboratories around the world. So, in this lecture we have concentrated on Ampere's law, and we have found field due to solenoid and then due to a toroid, and we have also discussed the importance of toroids. In the next lecture I intend to continue finding the magnetic field due to currents, but instead of Ampere's law, which requires some kind of a symmetry, we shall use a law which does not require symmetry. That law is called Biot-Savart's law.